When was the last time you stopped to think about the one thing you can't live without? No, I'm not talking about the internet. I'm talking about water. Without clean drinking water, life couldn't go on. So it's probably important that we know what's in the water we drink. For the past 65 years, city governments nationwide have been adding a substance called fluoride to the water supply. The practice of water fluoridation started at a time in history when asbestos, PCBs, and DDT were all deemed safe and effective. And although all of these chemicals have been banned since, fluoridation is still a common practice. So what exactly is it that we're ingesting? Well, it's not the same fluoride that's in your toothpaste. What's being added to municipal water supplies is a fluorine compound called hydrofluorosilicic acid, and it's a byproduct from the phosphate fertilizer industry. Yes, you heard me right. Let me break this down for you. Gaseous fluoride is produced during fertilizer production. Now, it used to go straight into the atmosphere from these factories, but presently, filtration devices are used to contain the toxic chemicals, and what's extracted from the filters is then condensed into a water-based solution, which is packaged unrefined and sold to city governments for the purpose of water fluoridation. So how did this all start? Well, interestingly, in 1944, the American Dental Association themselves published that it was not worth the health risk to fluoridate water supplies. Too bad no one heeded their warning, because the very next year, Grand Rapids, Michigan became the first community to fluoridate. And what happened next would not have been possible without a push from the aluminum industry, which was looking for a way to safely discard their fluoride pollution and waste. In 1947, Oscar Ewing, a paid attorney for Alcoa, the biggest aluminum company in the U.S., was picked to oversee the Public Health Service, which is now known as the Department of Health and Human Services. He then made clear his lingering ties to the aluminum industry by promoting water fluoridation as one of the first official policies of the department. From there, the policy expanded tenfold, with an additional 87 U.S. cities fluoridating within the next 3 years. Fast forward to today, where children are growing up indoctrinated with the notion that fluoridated water is necessary because it prevents tooth decay. But is that really the case? In 1987, the National Institute of Dental Research examined 39,000 school children from 84 different fluoridated and non-fluoridated communities. And while the study did find that in fluoridated areas tooth decay declined, the most interesting part is that there was a declining trend in tooth decay in non-fluoridated areas too, perhaps because of overall better hygiene. Okay, but not only is there no causal link, there's also serious health risks for fluoride overexposure. For one, an excess of fluoride causes fluorosis, which is the eating away of the enamel on your teeth. This is indicative of what it's doing to your body on a larger scale. You see, it doesn't just eat away at the tooth enamel. Only 50% of the fluoride we consume is excreted. The rest is absorbed throughout our bodies, our pineal glands, and our bones. In fact, an alarming study by the U.S. Public Health Service, which was later confirmed by Harvard Medical School, found that a deadly type of bone cancer called osteosarcoma was significantly higher in fluoridated communities than in non-fluoridated communities. However, the most distressing findings come from 18 studies done worldwide, showing a substantial lowering of IQ in overly fluoridated areas. And there are many more adverse effects than just those. Now let me explain. The most prevalent artificial sugar on the market is aspartame, which is also recognized as NutraSweet or equal. Aspartame is in over 6,000 products, including almost all diet sodas, chewing gum, frozen desserts, yogurt, and even vitamins and cough drops. But the FDA approved it, so it must be safe, right? Because if we know anything, that the FDA cares about our health. So this is your aspartame 101. All right. It was originally discovered by G.D. Searle, which was later bought out by Monsanto, our favorite company. Later, it spawned off to form the NutraSweet company. Now, while waiting for final approval, the FDA commissioner analyzed some of Searle's aspartame tests, which he said were, quote, at best sloppy, and, quote, revealed a pattern of conduct which compromises the scientific integrity of the studies. compromising scientific integrity, meaning that Searle's tests were so flawed that they actually found tumors in rats, but instead of reporting the tumors, they cut them out and discarded them. Yes, that did happen. Well, the flurry of debate about Searle's tests prompted the FDA to establish a public board of inquiry comprised of independent scientists to rule on safety issues surrounding NutraSweet. And in 1980, the board concluded that NutraSweet should not be approved, pending further investigations of brain tumors in animals. But there's more. Check it out.
The circulation of the brain and the veins and arteries of the brain, there's an enzyme that can convert methyl alcohol into formaldehyde, and in the human breast.
Monty says that means an increased risk of breast cancer. This chart shows how breast cancer has risen along with the increased use of aspartame.
So knowing that Searle purposefully falsified tests and there's data supporting a rise in cancer directly linked to aspartame, you might be wondering, how did this chemical actually get approved? Well, enter Ronald Reagan. After the FDA's Board of Inquiry halted aspartame's approval, Ronald Reagan became president. And his transitional team, which included Donald Rumsfeld, CEO of Searle, then handpicked Dr. Arthur Holhays Jr. to be the new FDA commissioner. And in one of his first official acts, the new FDA commissioner overruled the Public Board of Inquiry's recommendations and authorized aspartame to flood the food market. Later, Arthur Hole left the FDA and took a position with Burson Marsteller, the chief PR firm for both Monsanto and G.D. Searle. Conflict of interest much? It's revolving door politics at its best. And over the last 30 years, aspartame has made its way into thousands of food products. And despite its sordid past, weight-conscious Americans will likely still opt for products containing aspartame because it's marketed as a weight loss aid. But ironically, studies have shown that consuming artificial sugars actually increases appetite, sugar intake, and weight gain because the empty sweetness makes your body expect food. And when food doesn't arrive, your body gets hungrier and you tend to consume more. So here's the lesson. Before you reach for that Diet Coke, think about this. While the FDA claims to be checking up on aspartame, you and I need to be checking up on the FDA.